Good morning, everybody. So today we're going to be covering a new topic, which is third conditional, where we saw first and second conditional in our classes. So this should be a breeze for you guys. So remember, this presentation is brought to you by Tangier and Friends. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. First off, we need to answer one question. What does the third conditional do? In this case, the third conditional talks about the past. It's used to describe a situation that didn't happen and to imagine the result of this situation. If we can associate it with one basic thing that a lot of people do is we can possibly associate it with regret, right? We will see more in depth in more of the examples as we go through the presentation, but just keep that in mind with regret. We have to always remember the general structure for our conditions or conditionals, be it zero, first, second, third. They all have the same general structure, which is a condition or the if clause and a result, which is the main clause. And they can be inverted. Just always remember to use a comma if you're starting with the condition. Here is our structure for the third condition. All right, so we have to remember the condition, the if clause, is going to have the past perfect tense, and then our result or our main clause is going to have would have, and then the verb in past participle. That is the most important thing. So here we have it the same way. Either we start with the condition or we start with the result. They both work. Just always remember to add that little comma if we start with the condition. Here's one example. Okay, so this is what I meant when I said expressing regret. So we have Tanjiro, our man, right here. He's on the right. If Tanjiro had kissed her, he would have been very happy. Unfortunately, he didn't. He didn't kiss her, right? So we're expressing regret right there. But if this action had happened, we had the main clause or the result, right? Just notice the tenses that we're using. So if the if clause, like we mentioned, is in past participle, remember, if you don't know these structures, you have to really go into Google if you do not have them written down, but you have to be able to remember the structures for both past participle and just for the conditional itself. So we have past participle right there. If Tanjiro had kissed her, we have the result, which is would have, and then the verb in past participle. He would have been very happy. All right, so that was our first example. Let's dive into one more. Here we have two examples. They're both the same. I mean, both of these ones, the first ones, they're just inverted. So you can see how they work one way or the other. So we can see the first one. If I had done the homework, I wouldn't have felt the subject. We're starting with the condition right there. And then we start with the result. I wouldn't have felt the subject if I had done the homework. All right, so we can use it with the condition or the result first. We already mastered this with all of the other conditionals, so we have to pay close attention only to the tenses that we're using. So we can see in green right there, past perfects, and then in blue, we have the results, which is would have, and then the verb in past participle, all right? So very important to notice. Also in the second example, if I had listened to my parents, I would have done things differently. So past participle in green, and then blue would have, and verb in past participle. I mean, past perfect in green. Sorry. So that is in green, and then in blue we have would have, and then the verb in past participle. So very important to notice how we're applying this, how we're using it in the sentences. In this case, we have negatives. A lot of people sometimes think to themselves, can we make negative sentences with conditionals? And the answer to that is yes, you can. We have a very common example that we use in our Mexican culture, which is if I hadn't hurt my knee, I would have played professional soccer. Very common. So in this case, we have in green, past perfect. There it is, hadn't hurt. And then in blue, we have would have and the verb and past participle, right? And condition result. If I had gone to the party, I would have seen my crush, right? So right there, condition result. And the last one, I inverted it just for the fun of it. She wouldn't have said that if he hadn't acted like that. All right, so we have the result first and then the condition. So we don't use any comma, no comma usage right there in that case. All right, so can we use negatives? Yes, we can. We can use it in the condition, like the first one. We can use it in the result, like our second example. Or we can use it in both the condition and the result, like in our last example. Here we have a lot more examples. You guys can go over them if you want. I'm not going to go over all of them for the sake of time, but let's go over one. If we had taken a taxi, we wouldn't have missed the plane. So this is what I mentioned with a lot of the expressing regret. Like, if this would have happened, a different result would have occurred. So we have it right there. If I had done the homework, I would have passed the test, the one I used. So yeah, you just remember. I mean, if I had done the homework, I would have passed the test. Just remember that normally, or we can use it. One of the most common ways to use it would be to express regret or a different scenario, right? The last important note that I can give you is, since we're using past perfect and past participles, we're using the past participle forms, right? So it's very important to remember that we have what we call irregular verbs. You guys already know these, but the thing is to master them, okay? You have to really, really either grab a list and just start studying. For now, I would recommend use the verbs that are at the end of your book, but you can always grab a list from Google. Google is very handy. Just grab a list of irregular verbs, start practicing. You're gonna need them for any future tenses that we're going to be using. And I don't mean like future simple, I mean like any tenses we see in the future, but we will be using them. As tenses get harder, we start using more past participle forms. So remember to have a list handy and to practice them. Okay, so we've reached the end of the presentation. At this moment, I will pause the video and ask you if you have any questions. All right, so if no questions are asked, or you do not have any immediate question right now, remember I'm always available. Shoot me a message, send me an email. Either way, I will answer as soon as I get the information, or I'm available to answer. As for you guys, you have to make a concept map where you explain this topic, and you have to answer the following sentences that you have right here. All right, so answer this, send it to Blackboard, and we're done. Okay, so I'm gonna take you all the way to the reference section right here. In case you want to go to the links where I got this information from, here they are. Feel free to browse through the information that you find there. You might have a little bit more information there that was presented. But again, thank you for sitting through this video, and or going through the video once for a second time if you saw the live presentation. But thank you for doing that, and take care. I will see you next time.